Yeah, hi, hello, namaste, vanakkam, adab. This is Bhagante Khader. In the last video, we saw that what is SDLC and what are all the models of the SDLC. Out of 5 models, I explained about 2 models, that is waterfall model and spiral model. In today's session, I am going to explain you about 2 more models. One is like prototype model and the second one is V model, that is verification and validation model. So whenever we are selecting the particular model, we need to know that when we are going to select this from these 5 SDLC models, which model we are going to select when. So the first thing is like waterfall model. Here it is coming by step, like from requirement collection, feasibility study, design, development, testing. These are coming by step, one by one. So when we are going to select this waterfall model is like when the requirements are freezed, so there is no change in the requirement until unless the project completion. At that moment we are going to select the waterfall model. And the second one is like a spiral model. When we are going to select the spiral model is when the basic system is implemented and it is handed over to the customer. So during the maintenance of the project, if the customer is asking for the requirement changes, at that moment we are going to select this spiral model. And the third one, prototype, I'm going to explain you by today. I will give you the brief description about this prototype and V model, and we will move on to the screen and we will discuss about clear about the what is prototype and what is a V model, these kind of things. So the prototype, when we are going to select is the customer is not clear about the requirements, at that moment we are going to select this particular prototype model. And also there is one case, there may be possibility, so the customer itself asking the prototype to the BA team, because a customer is clear about the requirements here, but he wants to know how much percentage the BA team has understand his requirements. At that moment he will request to the BA team to provide the prototype of that particular requirements. At that moment also we are going to select the prototype model. So coming back to the V model, here the verification and validation, here test execution is going to happen in the V model, V shape, and the deliverables are going to happen in the parallelly. So let's move on to the screen. Yeah, this is the prototype model. As I said earlier, the requirement collection is going to happen as usual in the prototype model as well. So the next phase is like design and development of the prototype. So when we are coming to this prototype model is when the customer requirements are not clear, that is the one case. And the second case is the customer is clear about his requirements, but he's demanding BA team to provide the requirement understandability in terms of the prototype. So if the requirements are given to the business analyst team and he wants to know that how much percentage they understand his requirement, at that moment also we are going to select this particular prototype model from the SDLC. So and the requirement collection is happened, and then we are designing and developing the prototype. So here there are two things, like a static prototype is there and a dynamic prototype is there. What is meant by static prototype? Static prototype is nothing but it is a rules and procedures. It will consist of a simple document which consists of a rules and procedures to develop a particular software. So we are calling it as a static prototype. For example, like rules, like instructions which we need to implement in this particular software development, and test descriptions and some pictures. So those kind of things are going to involve in the static prototype. So the second one is dynamic prototype. When we are going to uh, go with this dynamic, is it is nothing but a working model of the real application. So the static is nothing but it is having the simple kind of rules and procedures as a document. The dynamic is nothing but like a working model of the real application, how the real-time application will be exist, that will say about the dynamic prototype. So here the static prototype was done by the content developers. Like there are the developers, they will prepare the static prototype of that particular software, and the dynamic prototype is done by the web developers. So they will convert the static, like document into the some HTML conversions, those kind of things they are going into the picture. So they will convert that particular content into the HTML and they will showcase the prototype to the customer. Okay, So here the next phase is like prototype testing. So who is going to test this particular prototype is nothing but the development team is going to test this particular prototype. So it depends upon the requirement collection from the customer. So depends upon the CRS. They will check the prototype testing what they developed as a prototype. So they are going into the testing and they will test it is as per the requirements of the customer or not. They are going to involve the development team is going to involve in the prototype testing. So after developing and testing done by the development team for the prototype, they will provide that particular prototype to the customer for the review purpose. Because so the customer has to know that what is the real application, then how it is going to be developed in the software terms, like after completion of the development of the software, how the real-time application will be. So for that purpose we are developing the prototype, right, the dynamic prototype, and we are going to hand over that prototype to the customer for the review purpose. So the customer will review that particular prototype, and there might be a chance of he will say some modifications in the prototype. There will be less chances like he will accept that particular prototype and he will approve the prototype. But most of the cases depends upon the prototype which was given by the development team. So he will ask the changes for the requirement. So that will be going to happen in this particular four phases, like requirement collection, design, and prototype testing and customer review. So in this phase, no, the customer is reviewing that particular prototype and he is saying some requirement changes. The same thing is going to happen again, like depends upon the customer review comments, and we are designing and developing the prototype, and we are doing the testing for the prototype, and we are going to hand over that particular prototype to the customer for the review purpose. And again, if he is saying any changes at that moment, we are going to again we are designing the prototype. It is going to happen in a cycle way until unless customer is satisfied with his requirement and he is going to approve this particular prototype, then only the actual design will going to start. Until unless the design here, it is going to happen the prototype design, but it is not an actual design, but we are giving as a working model of the real application over here. So depends upon the customer's feedback, like any modifications or approvals, we are going to implement the our original software over here. So why the developer only going to do this particular prototype testing is nothing but here the testers are not going to involve, because the developer only know depends upon the understanding of the requirements, he only know the prototype model of that particular software. So he can test and he will save the testers time here, and he is only going to development team is only going to test this particular prototype model over there. So the customer is telling in the review phase, the customer is telling like modifications or addition or deletion of the features depends upon the prototype which we provided, and he's going to say some modifications or deletions or addition to the particular prototype. So we are doing all these things, and once the customer is approving that particular model, at that moment we are going to start the our actual design. So the design is going to happen like normal way when we followed this in the waterfall model and spiral model, like the same steps we are going to handle in this particular design phase over here. The only changes here, we are providing the sample like working model to the customer, and if he is satisfied and he's going to approve that particular model, and then we are going to start our actual design coding and testing for that particular software. So the after completion of our designing, we are going to start the coding of that particular software, and we are going to hand over, the development team is going to hand over whatever they developed the functionality, they are going to hand over that particular functionality to the testing team. Here the testing team is start their testing, and with respect to the by understanding the requirements or like CRS, they will start writing test cases at this phase itself, like whenever the customer is approving that particular software prototype, at that moment the testing team will start analysis of that particular CRS, and they will start writing test cases. So whenever the development team completed the coding of that particular software, so they will start executing their test cases after getting the build from the development team. So after completion of their testing, the implementation is going to happen, and they are going to hand over to the they will move this particular implementation to the live, and this is the implementation, and they're going to maintenance. If the customer is facing any, like is facing any difficulties at that moment, we are going to maintaining this particular software. So coming to this particular prototype, so whenever we are having, like very clear requirement, uh, here we are getting the clear requirement, because we are doing the prototype and we are designing the prototype, and we are handovering to the customer. After getting the approval only, we are starting our actual process over there. So the main advantage of this particular prototype is, we can say that we are getting the clear requirements from the customer. So that will be main advantages for the prototype model. The second one is, requirement changes can be easily handled over here, because if we are giving the prototype to the customer, in this phase itself, the customer saying the requirement changes, so we are just modifying the prototype, and we are giving it to the customer, and we are getting the confirmation from the customer, like requirement feasibility is coming from from this particular customer review phase itself. And the third advantage we can save, as we can save the time and cost in terms of creating the prototype by understanding the requirement. So here we are understanding the requirement, and if there are any modification and deletions in the prototype, we are handling that in this particular phase only. So the development and testing team is not going to involve in this case. So here we are saving the time and cost of the we can save the time and cost over here. And so, and one more advantage, like the customer will have a quick preview how the final software looks like he will get some idea about how his final software is coming into the picture. So it depends upon his requirement collection, he can compare the his real application with this particular uh, prototype. And we can say the disadvantages of the prototype as, uh, the time taken for the creation of the software will take more time here. So the time taken, like the requirement collection is happening, the prototype designing is happening, and prototype testing is happening, and customer review approach. So this phase is going to take more time for us deliver the complete software. So I can say the drawback as, like the time taking for the deliverable of the software will take more here, because here the more time we are spending over like a prototype model. And also the testing is not going to happen in all the phases of the SDLC, because the prototype testing is handed over by the development team. The complete testing is not going to happen in this particular prototype. So this is the overall about the prototype model, and what is prototype, and when we are going to select this particular prototype. This is the structure of the V model. This is the fourth model from the SDLC. Earlier we discussed about the three models: waterfall, spiral, and prototype, and the fourth model is like a V model. Here the V model is calling as V and V model as well, because the V stands for the verification, and the other V stand for the validation. So the verification and validation model is also calling as the V model. So what is mean by verification, and what is mean by validation in this particular SDLC model? So the verification is nothing but, like it is nothing but review. So any activity, the review in terms, like any activity that happens before the execution of the coding, so we can call it as a verification. Otherwise, simply we can call it as like any activity happens before execution of our test case is called, we can call it as a verification. So either it may be like before the execution of test case, if something is happening, then we can call it as a verification. Or when any activity uh, that is happening before the execution of the code, so we can call it as the verification in the V model. So the validation is nothing but any activity that is happening after the execution of the coding. So that is nothing but after code execution, if any test case is executed, like any test case is executed, uh, at that moment we can call it as a validation. So in the validation, there are like a white box testing is coming into the picture and black box testing is coming into the picture. So the white box testing was done by the development team and the black box testing is done by the testing team. So in verification, the main point is like we need to concentrate. I mean, the verification is going to happen by the development, right? So the development team needs to be keep in mind like they are building the product right. So depends upon the customer requirements, they need to confirm that they are building the product right. So that is the verification. So coming in back to the validation here, the testing team needs to be confirmed that whether they are building the right product or not. So in the development team, they are confirming that they are building the product right. So in the testing phase, the testing team needs to performing the validation, right? That means they are going to execute the test cases, right? So they need to confirm that they are building the right product or not. Depends upon the CRS from the customer. So in any of the like SDLC model, the initial phase is like requirement gathering. So the BA, the business analyst, will meet the customer and he gets the requirements and prepare the CRS. Depends upon the requirements from the customer, he will prepare the customer requirement specification document over there. So after completion of his task, the business analyst will hand over the corresponding CRS to the customer and development team. So whatever requirements gathered from the customer, he will prepare a document. It will consist of some text like customer requirement specifications. So that particular document, no, he will share with the development team as well as the customer. So and the customer will have their own team, like they need to perform the acceptance testing. So I will explain you one by one what is the functional testing, integration, system and acceptance testing. First of all, we need to concentrate on this flow, how the flow is happening in the V model. So in the V model, the execution is happening in the V shape. So from CRS, it is converting into the SRS to high level design, low level design, and coding. It is happening. And then after completion of the coding, development team is going to do the white box testing. So they are doing the testing over there. And then the testing team is involving here in the black box testing. The first testing they are going to do as the functional testing and the integration testing, system testing, and acceptance testing. So the execution is happening in the V shape, but the deliverables are happening in the parallelly. So how the deliverables are happening in the parallelly, I will explain you. So first of all, the BA is BA met the customer and he will get the customer requirement specification, like customer requirements is getting, and he is preparing the CRS over here. So in this phase, he will give this particular CRS to the customer and as well as to the development team. So based on the CRS document which they got it from the business analyst, what the development team will do, no, they will convert the particular CRS to the SRS. In the meanwhile, here the testing phase will do like they are preparing the test plan for the depends upon the CRS. So the test plan is nothing but it is a like it is a document kind of thing. Like the plan is like the document. So which will drive all the features the testing activity is going to do. So the document will contain like which activity should end at what time and which activity is going to start at what time and what is the risk involvement in this particular testing phase and it will describe when we should stop the testing. Those kind of things are coming into the test plan, like when we are going to start our exact testing and when we are going to stop our exact testing and what are all the roles and responsibilities of the each resource from the testing team. So those kind of things are covered in the test plan. So whenever the CRS is given to the customer and development team, so here they will write the acceptance testing test plan and they will write the accepting testing test cases. So in this phase, if they feel like there is some mismatch from the CRS, because the CRS is the main thing here, right? If something is mismatching and something is not going to work according to the CRS, at that moment they will report to the BA team like this is not as exact to the CRS. At that moment, no, the BA will reach out to the customer and he will modify the CRS and he will give the modified CRS to the development team and the customer again. So at that moment, no, depends upon the modified CRS, they will start writing the acceptance testing test cases over here in this phase. So if everything is goes in the correct way, at that moment development team is converting the CRS into the SRS, that is the software requirement specification. So this software requirement specification the dev team is going to hand over to the testing team. So in this phase, no, the review of SRS is going to done based on the CRS. So by looking into the CRS, the review is going to happen for the SRS. If something is goes wrong at this phase, again it is going back to the team and they will modify the software requirement specification and they will hand over that particular reviewed SRS to the testing team over here. Again here it is they will write the test plan for this particular uh, SRS and they will start writing the system testing test cases over here. So at that moment, the what development team is doing is like they are converting the SRS into the HLD. Here, the review of the HLD is going to happen based on the SRS. So if something is going wrong, based upon the SRS, they will revert back this particular HLD to the development team. They will modify this particular SRS and they will give the modified SRS to the team, and here the team is reviewing one more time and they will start writing that test plan for this integration testing and they will start writing the test cases for the integration testing. So if everything is going in a correct way, at that moment the HLD is going to convert to the LLD, that is like HLD is the high level design and LLD is the low level design. Here the team is converting the HLD to the LLD. So in this phase, no, the review of the LLD is going to happen based on the HLD. So from high level design is the main thing here. Depends upon this, the review of the LLD is going to happen. If any modifications are there, they revert back to this particular team, and the dev team will modify this HLD and they are giving this particular HLD to the team. And here the team is giving the LLD, the modified LLD to the testing team. So here the review of the LLD is going to happen and based on the HLD, and they are writing the test plan for the functional testing and they will write the functional test cases for this particular uh, low level design. Depends upon the low level design, they will write the functional testing test cases. So here the exact coding is converting like after completion of this LLD, if everything is went well, at that moment the development team start their coding over here. So they will write the logic for that particular application. So they will start implementation of that logic and they will convert that logic into the coding, and that coding is done by the development team. So by looking into the code whatever they develop, no, they will do one testing that is called as a white box testing over here. So here the white box testing is done by the development team. So what is mean by white box testing? So the white box testing is nothing but uh, the testing is done by the development team. We know that the white box testing is going to happen by the development team after completion of their coding. So after completion of their coding, no, they will look into that particular code. By looking into the internal behavior of the code, they will do this particular white box testing. So here I marked all this testing like functional integration system and acceptance testing as a black box testing. So this is going to done by the testing team, like test engineers are going to do this particular black box testing over here. So the next phase, like after completion of the white box testing, here the development team is going to hand over that particular code. They will convert that particular code to the application, and they are going to hand over that particular application to the testing team. Here, the exact testing is going to start by the test engineers over there. So So here what will happen in the functional testing? No, the functional testing is nothing but it is the basic level testing. So here the testing is done on the individual or independent component of the application. For example, uh, like a login functionality is there, they will check the login username functionality over there, like that is the independent component, like username is the independent component and the password field is the independent component. So in the functional testing, the testing is going to done on the individual or independent component of the application, so we can call it as a functional testing over there. So the next, if everything is passing, the whatever the test cases they wrote in the functional testing, if every test case is passed, at that moment the testing team is moving on to the integration testing. So here the integration testing is nothing but, like, they're combining the modules over there, like one module is going to combine with the second module. For example, if you're considering the Gmail, so the first component we can consider it as a compose. So the compose is the individual or independent component over here. So what we are doing is we are verifying the we are writing the functional test cases for the independent component, that is the compose mail. And if everything is getting paused, we are going to check the inbox field. So in Compass, what is happening? We are providing the email address over there, and we are giving the exact subject line over there, and we are writing the some text over there in the mail. So after that, whenever the user is clicking on the send button, it should be, the mail should be go to the inbox of the Gmail. So here the integration is happening between the compose mail and the inbox. So whenever one user is sending the email, that corresponding email address should receive that particular email, and it should be exist in the inbox. So this we can call it as a integration testing, that is the combining the modules. Like, feature A, we need to check the feature B, like, the feature A is the compose here and the feature B is the inbox over here. So the feature A is sending the mail and the feature B is receiving the mail. So we can say it as the integration between the compose mail and integration. So these kind of test cases will come into the integration testing over here. And the system testing, so it is nothing but the end-to-end testing. So we are not going to verify the, like, the specific component or individual component, but here we are going to do the end-to-end testing over there. So end-to-end testing is nothing but the system testing. So the final thing here, the acceptance testing, it is nothing but it is a testing done by the customer or end user, like to check whether the creator software is working as per the business needs of the customer or not. So here the mainly, the acceptance testing is done by the customer or end user, they are going to do the specific testing, but they need to confirm that the created software is working as per the business needs of the customer or not. This is going to happen in the acceptance testing. So you are clear about how the execution is happening and what is meant by verification and what is meant by validation, right? So one more time I'm saying, the verification is nothing but any activity that is happening before execution of the code. So before execution of the code, in the sense, hereafter the execution of code is going to happen. So before that, we can call all these fields, we are calling as a verification. So the verification is going to happen in two ways, like we can call it as a, one is like a walkthrough and the second one is inspection. So this verification process is going to happen in a two ways. One is the walkthrough, that is the, we can call it as an informal review as well. So it is going to happen like a peer level, like one-to-one testing is going to happen in this particular informal review, that is the walkthrough. And this meeting takes place at the place of the development engineer, like, here the activities are going to taken care by the development team, right? So we can call this walkthrough, like the verification of verification, like walkthrough, we can takes place in the development phase itself. Okay, so here there is no duration of this meeting on these kind of things over there. So they will take their own time and they will come up with their ideas over there, and if there any modifications are there, they will update the documents over there in the verification process. But in the verification itself, there is one more way, that is the formal review, that is going to happen in a inspection view. So in the inspection view, there are the different people will be involved in this particular inspection, that is the formal review. So who are all involved in this particular phase, no, in this particular verification process? The reader will be there, the writer will be there, the moderator will be there. So these kind of peoples will be uh, coming into the picture. For example, the reader or author, like the person who is preparing the document, we can call it as a author. He will be involving in this inspection process. And the moderator, he is the responsible for the review activities, like they are reviewing these CRS and they're converting into SRS. These kind of activities are going to happen by the moderator. Okay, and the reviewers will also be involved in this particular inspection. Like we can call them as a inspectors also in this particular phase. Okay, so all these things are going to happen in the verification. Like it is going to happen in verification is nothing but any activity that is going to happen before execution of the coding, and it is going to happen in two ways. One is the formal way and one is the informal way. The second one is like validation. So any activity which is going to happen after execution of the coding, we can call it as a validation. So coming back to the disadvantages of the V model, here the communication gap, maybe there might be chance of communication gap between the teams. Like there is a communication gap between the dev team and testing team. There might be a chance of communication gap over here. And the cost, like from initial stage onwards, the cost of the resources will be increased in this particular V model. So these two are the drawbacks of the V model. And coming back to the advantages, so here the deliverables are happening parallelly, and the testing team, like the testing is done in each and every phase of the SDLC. Like here the testing is going to done acceptance testing, here the system testing is going to done integration function. Every testing is involving in this particular V model. So we can say the testing is done in each and every phase of the SDLC model. So the quality of the software will be obtained good because testing is happening in each and every stage, right? So we can say the outcome, the quality of the software will be coming very high quality product we are going to provide here. And the risk management becomes very simple for us, because we don't expect the much risk over there, because here we are like deliverables are happening parallelly, right? Though by looking in the CRS we are doing the converting the SRS, and by looking in the SRS we are converting this HLD, and the review process is going to happen. So from this perspective, I can say that risk management will be becomes very simple. So to overcome the drawbacks of the waterfall model, we are going to choose this particular V model. So we can call this V model also a sequential model. So, but there are some drawbacks in the waterfall model. To overcome all those models, we are going to choose this particular V model. I think everyone got idea about the prototype model and V model, and what are all the advantages of the prototype model, and what are all the advantages of the V model when we are going to select these SDLC models. So all these informations I covered in this video, and I think you enjoyed this video. And in the next video I'm going to explain about what is the agile methodology. So please wait for the next video. Until then, thank you so much. Bye bye.